Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Finance and Investing Deep Dive Showcase. So I'm June Bea, CEO of Bea Group. This is the 2022 Summer Internship Showcases. We at Bea Group are so fortunate to be working with three communities. Their high school students have been our interns for the last 6 weeks. So we've been working with Downey and Glendale and Davis school districts, and we have interns across 16 different deep dives. Today is going to be focused on finance and investing. So I actually am going to turn it over. So I'm going to turn it over to Harlan, who has been the mentor and deep dive lead for finance and investing. So Harlan, welcome.
Hi, thank you for introducing me. My name is Harlan Bea. I am running the Finance and Investing Deep Dive. And to kick us off in the most energetic and amazing fashion possible, I'm going to be sharing with you a special disclosure that I recorded all about investment advice. Hold on for a second while I share that and we listen to it intently. It's about 2 minutes long. Please be patient. How do I share my screen? Oh my gosh, where'd the screen share go? Share screen, screen 2. Oh. This content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as a legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained within our training materials, oral presentations, mock scenarios, or on our website constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by Bea Group or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments in this or in any other jurisdiction in which such solicitation or offer would be unlawful under the securities law of such jurisdiction. All content is informational of a general nature and does not address the circumstances of any particular individual or entity. Nothing that is being shared constitutes professional and/or financial advice, nor does any information provided constitute a comprehensive or complete statement of the matters discussed or the law relating thereto. Bea Group is not a fiduciary by virtue of any person's use of or access to our content. You alone assume the sole responsibility of evaluating the merits and risks associated with investing in securities. In exchange for our educational and trading materials, you agree not to hold Bea Group, its affiliates, or any third-party service provider liable for any possible claim for damages arising from any decision you make based on this information or other information made available to you through our training materials, oral presentations, mock scenarios, or on our website. There are risks associated with investing in securities. Investing in stocks, bonds, exchange-traded funds, mutual funds, and money market funds involve risks of loss. Loss of principal is possible. Some high-risk investments may use leverage, which will accentuate gains and losses. Foreign investing involves special risks, including a greater volatility and political, economic, and currency risks, and differences in accounting methods. A securities or firm's past investment performance is not a guarantee or predictor of future investment performance. Wow, wasn't that great, everybody? Yes. Legendary disclaimer. Thank you all for listening to that. I much appreciated. Now, okay, let's get into the meat of what we are actually doing here. Like I said, we're running the Finance and Investing Deep Dive, and what we were working on was creating a real money portfolio using fractional share purchases through a broker that provides that, so we can buy dollar for dollar instead of having to buy an entire share of something. And then we're basing our decisions off of written recommendations prepared by our interns, video presentations prepared by our interns, and collaborative discussions, figuring out which of these things that our interns presented to us we actually wanted to go with to help us create a nice diversified portfolio of recommendations for this year's investing. So this work is highly individualized. We have every intern use their own personal interests and to help make their own personal choice as far as what they're going to pick. They're doing self-directed research and they're going to be, they were evaluating the financial health of the businesses they chose, their future prospects, and the company's ethics. So like I said, the things we're talking about here aren't investing advice for you necessarily, but they were investing advice for me. When the team was done, we just selected 8 stocks that we ended up investing $1,000 in an equal basis into those. And we made the first half of our stock purchases Friday and Monday of this week. So very exciting. We'll make another buy on those automatically in about a month. So, all right, let's get right into it and start talking to our team members. Angelina, if you could come off mute, we'll start with you. Let's hear, what did you learn about the company you researched that compelled you to recommend it?
I learned that the company I researched that compelled me to recommend it is growing bigger and bigger every day. Customers spend more as a result of the company passing savings forward to them. I do expect this company to expand more than it already has.
So what business are they in?
They're in a retail business.
And is it a very large company? I mean,
Yeah.
and by the way, you can share the names of your company if you want. I'm going to be doing a little disclosure at the end. So it's up to you whether you want to or not.
Okay, well, I'm doing Amazon, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows about Amazon.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the difference between the process of advocating for yourself, or not just the process, the difference for you between advocating for yourself and advocating for others during the portfolio selection.
The major difference between advocating for myself and for others is the knowledge about like the different topics and companies that I know and that I have versus somebody else. They might have done research on like our company, but they might not know as much as we know it.
All right, fair. So what did you learn about yourself during the internship?
Something I learned is that I'm not a morning person at all.
Neither am I. How did that affect you?
It affected me because I was so tired during this, but I still got my job done.
All right. And what did you learn about working that surprised you?
Something I learned about working that surprised me is that you can't push away what you're assigned to do. You have to do it as soon as possible and get it done. Such as in school, I would push away my assignments and I'll just tell myself I'll do it tomorrow or I'll do it later.
And like, did you find yourself shifting the way you worked during the internship?
No, because I got it done like when it was supposed to be done. But like as in school, I would be like, let's do later. The due date's not till next week.
All right. So what did you learn about investing or finance that surprised you?
Something I learned was that it's way more than just saving money. Now I know that you can invest and benefit yourself in the future.
All right, cool. Thank you so much, Angelina. We're going to jump over to Sophia. So, Sophia, what did you learn about the company you researched that compelled you to recommend it?
I learned that this company was kind of in the trends of streaming TV services, like shifting from cable to more on apps. And I felt that this is a trend that will benefit them in the future. I believed in what they were doing, so I agreed to join this company and see how they're doing and whether or not it's a good investment. That's what drew me.
Very cool. And so what was the difference for you between advocating for yourself and advocating for others during our portfolio selection?
When I was advocating for myself, I used a lot of information through SEC filings, like data specifically into the company, what they're doing, what they're planning on doing. I learned a lot more about their values, what their future plans are, and I was able to analyze that and explain how that would help them in the future, so what I think in the future. But for other people, it was a little more of a blend of my opinion and their opinion. So I learned about a second point of view, and I was like, oh, I can see what they're doing and whether or not I agreed with like majority of what they were saying and whether or not I thought that they would also be a good investment.
That's good. I hope everyone could hear that. That was very thoughtful. The difference really is like stark between actually doing research for yourself on something and really having in-depth knowledge, and then kind of having to trust other people. But then when you are looking at other people's stuff, you can take that knowledge you got from your initial research on your own company and kind of apply it back, which is what I heard you say. Awesome. So what did you learn about yourself during this internship?
I learned that I'm kind of depending on how motivated I am or how interested I am in a subject, it will be easier for me to do work. I learned how to, try to work better with teams, how to see whether or not I can address complications or whether or not I can talk to my teammates in case I need to talk about an assignment or whether or not when are we going to meet. I learned that I was able to when the time came to communicate.
Did you feel pretty engaged when you were working on your research and your project?
Yeah, some parts I did feel engaged, like I was really interested in the initial research and looking at the charts and seeing the thing. But at some points I was less motivated, so it was harder to actually finish. Like, for example, getting the first draft and the editing, that took me a little more time, and I had to learn some things along the way to be able to complete that.
Awesome. So what did you learn about working that surprised you?
Very specific working, like online, how to be able to.
Yeah, any part of the internship, any part of the internship experience.
Yeah, this was pretty interesting. Like on the Monday, the whole social justice and the work wonder meetings. That was an experience I never had before. Or it's a little more difficult to be engaged when it's on a team like Microsoft Team meeting or a Zoom meeting, but through the chat and the talking one-on-one or in a smaller group of my teammates, I felt more engaged in that way. That was an interesting experience working in a small setting.
Yeah, it's a good thing to know. It's a good thing to be aware of, because you're going to have to deal with these things if you're working in like the new office environment, right? Even regardless of whether you go into a company and work physically there or not, because you may have to be dealing with these sort of decentralized groups that you do work with offline. So what about learning, what did you learn about investing or finance that surprised you?
Surprised me about investing in finance is that it's not really as much about the company's past as it is about its future. Sorry about the noise. Like I thought it was more like analyzing how they were doing in the past and what that means for like what they might do in the next week or the next month. But through this deep dive, I learned that it was more about how you think the company is doing, how their goals are, what they're planning on doing, and what you think that means for the company and its values.
Well said. Thank you so much, Sophia. All right, let's jump over to Anthony. Hey, Anthony. So what did you learn about your company that you researched, and what compelled you to recommend it?
So the company I researched was NVIDIA, and initially I was interested in it because I own a few NVIDIA products in my household. But what really pushed me was learning about their really like diverse products. I have a GeForce 1050. However, during my research, I noted how much more like diverse their catalog was. For example,
can you explain to folks what NVIDIA creates, just in case people aren't familiar with their products?
NVIDIA designs graphics processing units, typically for like technological parts such as like a computer or even cars. So, and I have mine for my computer.
Okay, cool. So, and you were impressed by their slate of products?
Definitely. There's a lot more than I thought, just because like as a different perspectives from different consumers. For example, I'm just a normal consumer. I'm not buying these products for like a company. I'm buying it for my own leisure, for my own entertainment.
So for you, what was the difference between advocating for yourself and your own company and advocating for others during the portfolio selection process?
The difference was, it was very stark, and it was a lot harder advocating for other people because, for example, in my portfolio, I was researching many things, but I also omitted many things. Although I decided against putting them in my portfolio, it still helped me like frame that background knowledge for my company, or as opposed to reading someone else's portfolio and advocating for them. It's a lot harder because I didn't have that background knowledge, especially for companies I didn't know.
Cool. So what did you learn about yourself during the internship?
Well, something I learned about myself was how much I actually enjoyed the work, despite some more frustrating moments, such as trying to find the right SEC filings. I found that really researching and looking at these graphs and data was really interesting, and it really it really had my attention. Something I enjoyed a lot, this field of work.
Cool. What did you learn about the process of working that surprised you?
What I learned was, despite me really enjoying the work, it was also pretty hard to get into it at times. You know, it would be hard to force myself to work on it because I was a bit lax on the dates. However, you know, once I eventually did get into the zone, I found it really easy to work. So I guess I learned about my work ethic a lot.
Nice. And what about investing or finance? What did you learn about it that surprised you?
What surprised me the most was how many factors there were outside of just knowing the company, or as opposed to many things that could affect their supply chain. You know, like what do they use to build or manufacture their products? For example, in NVIDIA, the silicon shortage or the GPU shortage, the chip shortage. It was something that was seemingly out of its control, other than different factors such as Congress voting on a bill to help out these chip stocks, basically.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Anthony. Let's move over to Chloe. So Chloe, what did you learn about the company you researched that compelled you to recommend it?
I initially wanted to recommend them because I knew how much they donated to animals, which is something I personally like. But then after researching them, I realized that it was like a very large amount that they donated. I think it was $27 million worth of products and medicine and stuff like that. And I also found out that unlike their main online competitor, the vendors that they allow to sell through them, they do like a background check sort of to make sure that it's legitimate.
So what is their business? They're a retailer, right?
Yeah.
And what do they primarily sell?
They're an online retailer for like pets.
Okay, cool. So tell me a little bit about the difference you felt between advocating for yourself and advocating for others during that portfolio process.
Right. So it was more comfortable, in my opinion, to advocate for myself because I was pretty confident in what I was talking about. But then when it came to advocating for other people, it made me uncomfortable because I was worried that they would think that I just like didn't know what I was talking about or I was representing them wrong.
Okay. How did you handle that?
Just try to, be educated about what I say, don't say something if I'm not really sure if it's right.
Okay. Fair enough. So what did you learn about yourself during this internship?
I learned that I did not know as much about like stocks and investing as I thought I did. I thought that it was just sort of like a system where you give money and then eventually you just randomly go back and you can like you always make money. But I've learned that I had like no clue what I was talking about.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yes. None of us, I think, come into investing really understanding the risks or the rewards, right? And so it takes a lot of learning. What did you learn about working that surprised you?
I also tend to be sort of a procrastinator and I'll be like, oh, I'll just do that the night before or something like that. But then I noticed with this job, when I was doing that, the quality of my work was not up to my personal standards. So I would have to go back and fix things. And I just wouldn't have had to have done that if I would have done things as they were assigned.
Okay. That story is true for all of us, I think, sometimes. What did you learn about investing or finance that surprised you? And I know you kind of talked about that in terms of learning about yourself, but are there any other things?
Yeah, I learned that it's smarter to invest your money rather than save it because money depreciates over time. So if you put all of your money into savings accounts, like it's just gonna be worth less and less. It's smarter to invest your money. That way you can, profit off of it and end up with more money rather than just a big pile of money that's just not gonna be as much as it was back then.
Good. Yeah. Inflation is a hot topic these days. So thank you, Chloe. Let's move on to Christian. Hey, Christian.
Hello.
What did you learn about the company you researched that compelled you to recommend it?
What made me want to recommend this company is that they capture most of the market shares than other companies, and their advanced quality helps when offering products to more people, which is more successful for their business.
Could you give me some more detail on that, just in case it's not clear what kind of company you're talking about?
The company I'm talking about is Nike, and how they do their advertising and how well they sell their products is a real good example on how other businesses should do it as well.
Cool. And just as a quick reminder, I and another member of our team may own stock in the companies that we're discussing today. I'll be disclosing at the end what all the companies are. I just don't want to do it all right now. So what was the difference between advocating for yourself and advocating for others during the portfolio selection process?
Advocating for myself was pretty good, knowing that I made some mistakes. And while advocating for others, it was a little overwhelming at first because, like what Chloe said, if you don't know what like you're really saying, you shouldn't really like say it unless it'll seem as you're going off topic, and it'll like be like false information to the other people, and so you really don't want to do that. So it was just different, but I managed.
All right. What did you learn about yourself during this internship?
I learned that being in a group really benefits when doing like an internship or a group, because interacting with other people and communicating will really benefit for you for your work, and it doesn't seem so bad. Like at first it'll feel a little awkward getting to know like every person, but you'll get the hang of it, and it's pretty good.
Cool. So what about the process of working surprised you?
I learned that I am a morning person, and getting up to do these meetings was pretty interesting and exciting, because I always wanted to learn more about financing and investing, and this internship really helped me a lot with that. And doing the work consistency, like doing the drafts and revising and going over people's work, was just giving you a sense of a motivation to keep the results that you wanted.
Cool. Yeah. And just to let folks who are watching know, we had a pretty long development process for our written work. It was about 2 weeks long, and we did multiple drafts and several rounds of edits from multiple different people on the team working on it. So a lot of work from the team went into this, not just to get to the point where we could all share in a knowledgeable way about each of our stocks. So what did you learn about investing or finance that surprised you?
I learned that knowing a few things about financing will help you understand the basics of like debt or like student loans or budgeting, and it'll really, those aspects of currency, of money basically, will help you in the adult life, because not knowing those basic things will really cause natural errors, which you don't really want to happen. So doing stuff like this and knowing more about the money and the economy, my bad, is really good.
Yeah, you want to avoid those unforced errors. Yeah. Did you want to talk about any particular things?
Like I know a lot of people, not personally, but I've seen like on shows, like reality shows, a lot of people go to debt when with student loans, and that it's pretty sad that the process that they had to go to for a lot of years and sometimes decades to just clear all that out and have a good life.
Yeah, knowing what you're getting into is really, really important, and knowing how to get out of it, you know, having a plan is super important. Yeah. Thank you, Christian.
You're welcome.
All right, let's move over to David.
Hi.
Hi, David. What did you learn about the company you researched that compelled you to recommend it?
Something that I learned about the company that I researched. So I originally, I like want to buy a Tesla, So the company that I own is Tesla. I also own the stock, so I already kind of knew a little bit about the stock and liked it beforehand. And I want to buy like a Tesla when I'm older. That's my dream car. So like that compelled me a lot. But like also like the future of Tesla is really bright, and they have like their intelligence, their artificial intelligence is really like advanced, and like features of the car like air like assist, like driver assist, and like also they're doing like tunnels from like LA, or right now they're making like a tunnel from LA to like Los Angeles that's um like transportation like underground like for Teslas.
Well, and that's in collaboration with Boring Company, which is
Yeah.
a separate entity, but also owned by the same CEO. Cool. So, what was the difference between advocating for yourself on this and advocating for others when we were selecting the portfolio?
So advocating for myself, like I knew more about like I would like go more into research about um my stock, and like advocating for myself, like I had like more knowledge about what I was gonna say, but like advocating for other people, um like I would give them like my opinion, and I feel like it was kind of helpful. And like also like if they advocated like for me, like I would know like, or like I would give my opinion about their stock and maybe tell them something that they didn't originally think about. And yeah.
Cool. So, what did you learn about yourself during this internship?
I learned that I work really well in groups, like especially since like anything that happens in a group, like it reflects on everyone in the group. So like it makes me work harder.
Yeah, no, I feel that as well when I work in groups. So, what did you learn about working, the process of working that surprised you?
The process of working, I learned that like using your email like is really important, and make sure you write like professional emails is really important, and like checking your email every day. So
And what did you learn about investing or finance that surprised you?
something that I learned about investing and financing that like I learned is that like anyone can do it. Like you don't have to be in financing to invest stocks. Yeah.
That is a good point. I feel like more people should have at least basic knowledge of it. And that's part of the reason why we do this, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So, yeah, and I expect you all to share all this with all your friends and your family so that you'll all live richer, fuller lives. So, all right, thank you, David. We're going to move on to Amelia. So, Amelia, what did you learn about the company you researched that compelled you to recommend it?
So originally, I was compelled by my company because, well, first of all, they're a large retailer and they sell product of many industries like food, clothing, beauty. And I personally shop there and I'm just fond of the quality and affordability they offer. But after learning how to do research and how to properly read articles and study growth trends, I saw that my company has done considerably well in the past, and based off my research, I believe that they'll continue to do better. So I wanted to include that as part of my recommendation.
That's great. I love all the points you made. And that's essentially how I look at all of my investments as well. So, big box retailer that you suggested for us, and we did eventually select it for our portfolio, I believe, right?
Mhm.
All right. So, what was the difference between advocating for yourself and advocating for others during the portfolio selection process?
I would say advocating for myself was easier than advocating for others, just because I was more comfortable with it based off the research that I had done. But I wouldn't say advocating for others was too difficult either, because their research was easy to understand. And it was also nice to advocate for others because I got to see their thought process through their writing.
Very cool. What did you learn about yourself during this internship?
I think the main thing I learned is that investing and kind of the general finance world is definitely something that interests me. I wasn't sure going into it, but after learning about the concept and what investing really is, I learned that it's something that I would want to continue doing.
Awesome. So as a future investment banker or just in your personal life?
In my personal life.
Very nice. Very nice. So what did you learn about the working that surprised you?
Before getting this experience, I thought working was a lot more stressful, but I saw that if you're getting things done on time and you're putting in effort, then it's a good experience, and especially because like everyone is trying to help you.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I like the most about a work environment versus like an academic environment. Like everybody is kind of in it together to help you. And that is one of the things that I hope a lot of folks get out of Bea Group's Work Wonder experience in general. So I'm glad that you felt that. So what did you learn about investing or finance that surprised you?
The main thing was the impact of compound interest. I remember when we were predicting how much money in an account would grow, when it was being compound when the interest was compounding. I was shocked that it would grow so much in 10 or 20 years. And it also made me see that that can also have the opposite effect. So if you have a loan and there's compound interest on it, it's really going to grow a lot. So it's important to pay it off.
Yeah, yeah. No, every time I do that presentation, I also make mistakes with my estimations, even though it's like my calculator and I like have standard things that I do. I don't remember how much it actually explodes over time. And it's always a little bit shocking.
Mhm.
So awesome. Thank you so much, Amelia. Let's move on to Emma.
Hi.
Hi, Emma. What did you learn about the company you researched that compelled you to recommend it?
So I was interested in the company at first because I like to watch anime, and the company is a media company and produces anime as well as manga, video games, and even more through its subsidiary companies.
Cool. And it's based out of Japan, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a really interesting company that I'm still kind of looking into because it reminds me of a young Marvel back when they were still an independent company, because it had a lot of IP, a lot of intellectual property, and a lot of stuff in development, but it was still kind of underappreciated by the market. So a very interesting company to me, one of my personal favorites from this. I always love the companies that people bring us that don't like aren't on my radar at all. I've never heard of Kata. Sorry, I'm just gonna say it. I've never heard of Katakawa before. We didn't end up purchasing it, so I don't own it. I don't believe anyone on our team owns it, but really interesting pick. So what was the difference between advocating for yourself and advocating for others during the portfolio selection process?
Advocating for myself was a little bit more nerve-wracking than advocating for others. Even though I believe in my company and believe in its future, I felt more comfortable and more confident advocating for others than I did myself.
That's interesting. So why do you think that was?
I think it's because I feel more comfortable, like just speaking about others and trying to help them more than help myself.
Cool. So, which leads me into the next question. What did you learn about yourself during this internship? It sounds like that was a learning, but beyond that.
I learned that motivation really affects me and my work ethic a lot. During the internship, my motivation lowered because I wasn't able to find the data that I really wanted, and my research was slow. So my writing performance was also not up to par. But when I did ask and I received help, um, my motivation really thrived because I was able to learn more about the company that I was researching, and my writing also boosted up and really was up to par.
Yeah, yeah, it's easy to get frustrated when you're feeling that like you really want to get something done, but you feel like you're being blocked, right? And it's not
Mhm.
necessarily your fault. right? But you have to sometimes find that extra resource, get past that block to start really getting motivated. Because I could tell you really liked this company initially, and I was really worried when you came back and you're like, I just don't understand why they don't have any information. And so we worked through it, and then it completely turned around your work. So really nicely done. Really nicely
Thank
done.
you.
So what did you learn about working that surprised you?
So I learned that working online is more different. It's like a completely different experience than working in person, because in person you get that one-on-one communication and you make sure that all your team members are together and you're all good with working. But online it's a little bit different because your only way for communicating is through chat and emailing or your scheduled video calls.
Yeah, you have to make a lot more effort, and it is definitely harder.
Yeah.
So what did you learn about investing or finance that surprised you?
I learned that investing, it's good and everybody should do it. And a good question to ask when you're thinking about investing in a company is to ask yourself, what future do you see for the company? And do you really believe in the company that you're investing? Because when you're just investing in a company that is riding a trend, the trend might fall out, people might lose interest, and that can really affect your stock that you invested in. But when you invest in a company that you believe in, you're investing it in a long term, so you can really see your investment grow.
Yeah, so I think what you're talking about is that difference between investing in a company that, performs well and has like good processes and a good strong history, as opposed to investing in a company that just like they're making the thing of the day, the thing of the hour, right?
Yes.
And that is a lot. It is a lot more difficult to invest that way, because it can feel like a coin toss.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree. I would agree. So thank you for that. All right. So Emma, goodbye. Thank you. And Holt, you're up next. So Holt, what did you learn about the company you researched that compelled you to recommend it?
Yeah, so my company is an airliner. And I found that I would always be using their tickets when I was flying to places because of their affordability. But as I looked into them greater, I found that they were trying to become more eco-friendly by using more sustainable fuels and more efficient flight patterns. And I see that being a trend in the future as companies move to being more green and being better for the environment. So I could see them staying on top of the airline industry.
Cool. And what was the difference for you between advocating for yourself and advocating for others during the portfolio process?
Yeah, I found advocating for others was a lot easier than advocating for myself, because it felt like when I was advocating for myself, I was kind of advocating for not just my company, but for me as a person. And it felt a lot more stressful, and I was putting myself out on the line. As where when I was advocating for others, it felt more like I was helping them out, and I was providing a different opinion and view on their company. And although I might not have known as much about the company, I think it was almost easier to formulate an opinion after just looking at it a little bit than going as more in depth.
Sure. Awesome. So what did you learn about yourself during this internship?
Yeah, I found, like Emma was saying earlier, I found that being online was really difficult for me. And I found that I'm a much better in-person person, and that while online, I had to really focus on paying attention to the Zoom calls and staying engaged. And that although it was hard, I found that I got a lot more out of this experience by paying attention the entire time and not just drifting off. And on top of that, the communication is very important, to always be communicating with your teammates if you can't meet a deadline, or communicating with the deep dive lead that you might be missing a meeting or something, and just always talking.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that from everybody. We had a really good communicative team, and they reached out to me whenever they had issues. So thanks to everybody who did that. And yeah, it's hard with these new meeting systems to like focus during this time. But I think it's unfortunately just the way of the working world, right? So this didn't start with the pandemic. This has been going on for decades now. So, but it's good to know, right? If that is a challenge for you, you might want to get a different type of job. So for all those of you who are thinking about like where you want to work, think about the places where you thrive, and think about the things that are challenging for you. And if you've got a choice between two workplaces, ask yourself, is this environment going to be a place where I can thrive? So, did I ask you the what did you learn about yourself question yet?
Yeah, that was about.
Okay. So what did you learn about working that surprised you?
Yeah, I found it surprising how I had a weird relationship with working in a team. I found it stressful to be working in a team because of meeting deadlines and being on top of it to help out for your team and making sure the team didn't fall behind. But I also found it very helpful because you had other people that you met with continually throughout the weeks that were looking through your work, that knew more about your company, and that were able to help you give helpful edits on your drafts and in other areas, and just helping in general.
Yeah, that stress is on purpose. I mean, it's there to give you an emotional reason to be engaged, right? And to keep with your work. So it's just a little trick that managers do to make sure that people are on top of things. So what did you learn about investing or finance that surprised you?
Yeah, so I found it, so I'm a math person. I enjoy math. And so I found it really interesting how a lot of the finance and investing, you can look at it through a math sense. You can look at the data, you can look at the statistics in the SEC filings, looking at how much they're earning, and all these other different areas of where numbers are being used that can show you how the company might do in the future, how the company is doing in the moment. But on the other side of that, if you're not as into math, you can also there's a lot of different ways you can analyze a company and earn useful information for their future.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Holt. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Jalen.
Hi.
Hi, Jalen. So what did you learn about the company you researched that compelled you to recommend it?
The company I recommended is in the beauty industry. They sell retail beauty supplies online and in person. And I recommended it because I have an interest in beauty and it has potential to grow in the future since it's grown a lot in the past.
Cool. And for you, what was it like advocating for yourself or advocating for others during the portfolio selection process? Oh, you're on mute for some reason. How'd that happen?
Oh, my
There we
bad.
go.
While advocating for others, it felt like I didn't need to be right because it wasn't my research being done on whatever the company was. But for me, I felt it was easier and I needed to be right about what I was saying because it was my reputation.
Yeah, it's always closer to heart when you're the one responsible, right? So what did you learn about yourself during this internship?
What I learned about myself is that communication skills are going to be needed in the workplace. And some places you don't need to be a good communicator, but I think it's really beneficial so you can get your point across efficiently and there's no confusion. And I say that because my communication skills were challenged during this internship. And I think my skills have improved.
Challenged in what way? I want to hear more.
Challenged because I don't like reaching out. I don't like presenting. I don't like public speaking. So having to reach out and get out of my comfort zone was really challenging.
That's fantastic. So what did you learn about working that surprised you?
What I learned about working is that I learned how to be dedicated to my work. For example, during school, you can slack off and it's not as serious, but this job is serious. You have real coworkers, a real boss that depend on you. So that's what I learned. And unfortunately, I didn't make all my deadlines. So I learned that that's a lesson that I learned and I know how to avoid it next time. But yeah, also during the internship, I was scared that I wasn't going to know everything and I was going to be behind everyone else. But it wasn't like that at all. And thanks to you, you offered a lot of help to help us understand more. So yeah.
Cool. So what about investing and finance surprised you?
What surprised me about finance and investing was that investing is way more beneficial than saving because you're letting your money grow rather than having it sit in a savings account. And I also learned that there's a lot of research that has to get done when choosing a company to invest in because what might be trending now as a company might not be trending in the future. So you can't really choose a company based on what's trending. You have to look at SEC filings, annual reports, how the company's done in the past, customer reviews, and all that stuff. So yeah.
Great. So thank you so much, Jalen. We're going to move on to Kylo next.
Hello.
Hi, Kylo. What did you learn about your company you researched and what compelled you to recommend it?
Well, at first, I chose the company because it was something I used myself, not for any particular reason, though. It was just like, hey, there's 10 things to do this. I'm just going to choose one at random. But after doing more research, I found that not only is it in a really fast growing field, but they're providing a unique service that's highly sought after. And they're first in trying to pioneer that where other companies are far behind.
What industry is your company in?
Software development and DevOps.
Okay. Can you explain DevOps for a moment, just for folks who may not be familiar with that term?
It's like a combination of tools and principles in software development to create apps and other things as efficiently as possible and automate as much as possible.
Cool. Thank you. So what was the difference for you between advocating for yourself and advocating for others during the portfolio selection process?
Advocating for myself was a lot more like one-sided. It was only my perspective, but when advocating for others, it felt more safe and confident because I was contributing my perspective to a pool of other perspectives, sort of like a diversified stock portfolio rather than all this $1,000 being put into a single stock that we all chose, which would be much more nerve-wracking.
Yeah, exactly. So what was the thing you learned about yourself during the internship?
At first, I expected the writing portion of this internship to be the most boring, but it turned out to be the thing I enjoyed most about the internship.
In what way?
It was, I don't know, I just really enjoyed putting my own perspective with researched ideas and trying to put it in a creative yet accurate way.
Very nice. Very nice. So what did you learn about working that surprised you?
Before I started working here, I expected work to be like 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, just doing stuff. That was my expectation, but it turns out it's not really the time that matters, but more the motivation you have. As if you're highly motivated, you can get something done in half an hour. Well, that would take 3 hours usually.
Okay. And what did you learn about investing or finance that surprised you?
The application, not just in the field of like finance, but it can go from things to a normal tabletop being an investment to every business using principles of finance in order to operate.
Right. Yeah. And you're talking about this idea of investing in yourself, investing in things that can make you money, but also investing in things that, like, on a day-to-day basis can help you out. So awesome. Glad to know that that helped. So Kylo, thank you very much. We're going to move on to Nick.
Hello.
Hi, Nick. What did you learn about the company you researched that compelled you to recommend it?
I learned about the company I was looking into is Netflix, and I was compelled to recommend them because of the kind of their shares kind of dropped recently due to some subscriber losses, but I realized that it could kind of be a good time to start investing because of the fact that they do have still potential to grow even bigger than they already are. And also with their personalized recommendations based off of content you watch and what you've watched before. I feel like, and with more variety in the future, I feel like they still have a lot of room to grow.
Cool. And for you, what was the difference between advocating for yourself and advocating for others during the portfolio process?
The difference for me was that I had my own research, and I had my own trust in my own research that I did. And so I could look into my company and just I could fully believe in what I was saying about it. But for other people, I had to trust and believe in what they were saying, and that they did the research on their own company, and that they had they fully believed in their own company and that it would do well as well.
Yeah, and that's always a challenge when you're talking about any sort of investing investing commentary or research that you'll see online or anything in the press. Even though people in the press tend to say things as if they're true, you can't always trust what they're saying, right? So it underscores this idea of, look, if you're thinking about investing in a company, you need a lot of different inputs. You need to do your own research. You want to make sure that you have a good idea of not just what the company does, what one or two people think about it, but you need to have a broad-based understanding. So it is harder when you're just working on one person's advice. Completely respect that. So what did you learn about yourself during the internship?
I learned that not only I'm a very big procrastinator, and so I like to do things last minute, but that I am dependable, kind of like when I was editing my coworkers' drafts and I had to make edits. I did procrastinate that for a long time, but that I did get it done, and that I am reliable in that sense, that if it needs to be done, I can get it done.
That's great. As well it should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what did you learn about working that surprised you?
Just like Kylo said, I thought it was going to be 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and just more strict than it really was, and more kind of just, I did stress a lot over it, but I realized quickly that it was not much to stress over, and that it was possible for me to get it done, and that it was more laid back than strict, and I would say.
Yeah, well, this particular style of working is not uncommon at a lot of companies. And you have a lot of competing elements, most of you, other jobs that you may be working, other things from school or activities you might be working. And that's similar to how you would be working at like a lot of workplaces where you're doing asynchronous work. You'll have a meeting, come together, and then you'll be responsible for producing something on your own time or with a team on your own, right? So that's what this is simulating. Not all workplaces are the same, obviously, but there are differences, and you should know like what the different styles are.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you learn about investing or finance that surprised you?
I learned that there's many different concepts to finance and investing, not just, finance and investing. And it's just, you kind of have to figure it out as you go, but that there are ways to kind of look into it before you're 18, before you're even able to invest and stuff like that. And you just have to manage your money better than you would think, and kind of save a little into this, save a little into that, and saving is just a bigger thing than I thought it would be.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, I think that's one of those things that a lot of people don't realize until they're older. And then by the time they're older, the saving doesn't have as much of an effect, right? So the earlier you can learn that lesson, and that you can, even if you can't apply it yet, right? You get a plan together and you try to make it work. That's really what investing is all about, right? Knowing what is possible, what you can do, and forming a plan and executing on that plan for yourself.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Sarah.
Hi.
Hi, Sarah. What did you learn about the company you researched that compelled you to recommend it?
So what first interested me in my company was that I used my company's products ever since I was a kid. But going more deep into researching and seeing the history of my company, it really like inspired me to recommend it and write about it.
What industry are they in?
They're a tech company, but they have multiple sectors in other industries like entertainment, financing, and yeah.
Cool. So what was the difference between advocating for yourself and advocating for others during the portfolio selection process?
For me, advocating for others, it felt really exhilarating. I normally don't advocate for others. And when I am in those types of situations, I just stand on the sidelines and watch everything turn out. But speaking up and advocating for others, it felt really nerve-wracking, but it also felt really good at the end.
Cool. I am really happy to hear you say that, because I have some of that also as well. I really do like to kind of help champion other people with their ideas, and it does give you this sort of sense of pride, you know, when those things come to fruition. So what was the thing that you learned about yourself during this internship?
I learned that I need to manage my time. When we were in the research and write-up process, I waited a few days to actually do my work. And so when I got around to do it, the stress really hit me. So I think having a sense of immediacy in doing work is way better than waiting.
Yeah, definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you learn about working that surprised you?
What I wouldn't say it was a surprise, but I think it was more of a realization for me, was that I can rely on others. And at school, I think it kind of instilled this mentality of I have to do everything on my own. But being in this internship, I realized that I can rely on you, Kimberly, and my teammates to, make my work better.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And of course, they were relying on you too, right? So you helped with edits, you helped with other things. So it goes both ways. I love that collaborative nature. So what did you learn about investing or finance that surprised you?
What surprised me was that you have to predict the future. For investing, you have to predict the future for the stocks that you want to buy. Before this internship, I always thought that like you had to go back in the past and look at past trends. But like learning about it now, you actually have to research your company and try and see like what other paths they might take in the future.
Cool. Yeah, definitely true. So what did you learn? Oh, sorry, that was the investing or finances surprised you question, wasn't it?
Yes.
All right. So we are wrapping up with Sarah. I'm going to move on to Vivian next. Thank you, Sarah.
Hi.
Hi, Vivian. What did you learn about the company you researched that compelled you to recommend it?
Well, what compelled me to recommend my company that I researched was that it's a multifaceted company that focuses on entertainment and building a community. Like their line of business includes media networks, parks and resorts, consumer products, and its movies and or shows.
Awesome. So, and you really focused on that sort of community building part of it as a strategic advantage for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Love it. I actually really like that as an investing thesis for them, because compared to a lot of other media conglomerate kind of companies, I think they do the best job of almost all of them. So what was the difference between advocating for yourself and advocating for others during the portfolio selection?
Well, advocating for myself, I found a bit more challenging than advocating for others. I say this because I tend to be hard on myself. Like I nitpick on the things that I say and write because I would like stuff to be like come out perfect when I present stuff.
Yeah.
While advocating for others, it was easier to like compliment and express how I feel towards their investment recommendation.
How did it feel to be able to compliment others?
I was like I was happy like I was able to express how I felt like towards their company and hoping that they feel accomplished or grateful too, like encouraging. It's like more of an encouragement thing that I feel like everybody likes to hear.
Yeah, no, it's true. So what did you learn about yourself during this internship?
Well, I learned that before I joined this internship, I was not confident in myself all that much. But I was afraid that voicing my opinions or like stuttering because and I was afraid of like talking with new people because I tend to be shy around people. But as I got into it, I got really comfortable with my teammates and like putting my input on things as well as speaking to you. It's like I found it easy. It's like getting to know you throughout these times. That it brought me out of my comfort zone.
Good. And you found a new comfort zone, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So what did you learn about working that surprised you?
What surprised me is how alert and ready you have to be, because like sudden what is it? There could be sudden assignments that could be assigned to you in a short amount of time, or like if you have to join immediately, like you have to be considerate of those things. Like this is the most I've checked my emails in forever. And so yeah, it was a great experience for like preparing towards future work.
Awesome. That's great to hear. And I'm sorry that you learned that you have to check your emails on a regular, on an almost frenetic basis.
No, it was fun.
No. It's important. It's just one of those things that you kind of, as you progress through your career, if you end up being in a sort of office job that requires a lot of email communication, it gets to the point where you like need to tamp it down later on. Like I've been like, all right, I'm not going to check my email for an hour. I'm just not going to do it. Right. So it's great to hear that you're kind of getting into the flow with that. And then later, hopefully you'll find a balance where you're like, okay, this is the amount I need to check my emails. No more, no less. All right. So what did you learn about investing or finance that surprised you?
What surprised me is the amount of research and precautions needed to be considered before you make an investment in a stock. Like that includes like involving your own family because it could, and your loved ones, like what they think about the investment, because it could like help you towards choosing your stock or not. It could be helpful, it may not be helpful, it could go both ways.
Yeah, no, I do the same thing. I talk to June and my kids, Alani and Rigel, about things that I'm deciding to buy, especially when I think that they know the companies well. And I'll get input from others that is invaluable. And sometimes I don't listen to their advice, and then I hear about it forever if I should have. So it's good to keep these conversations open. So I'm glad that you found that. Thank you so much, Vivian. I'm going to move on now to, yeah, you're welcome. I'm going to move on now to Joseph.
Hello.
Hi, Joseph. So what did you learn about the company you researched that compelled you to recommend it?
It's a sports brand service that, or not service, distributors, a sports manufacturer and distributor of sports goods used mostly in all sports. And I use their products on a daily and I really enjoy them.
Cool. And I really like having that kind of personal connection to a brand where you actually, the quality of their stuff. Did you feel like their stuff was high quality? And was that the reason why, or was it, because we had talked about specific events that were coming up during your process. Was it more about quality, or was it more about kind of taking advantage of timing?
It would be the middle ground between the benefits of high quality with a good price. I think that's one of the reasons why, because it's not super expensive while at the same time it's really quite cheap.
Cool. So what was the difference between advocating for yourself and advocating for others during our portfolio selection process?
With advocating for myself, I had to be very on top of everything. I had to know everything. While advocating for others, I could really, I could skim the lines. I wouldn't say skim the lines, but say something that wouldn't be right while being corrected, so I can learn more.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So it's an opportunity to basically kind of stick yourself out there and take a risk and use that opportunity for learning. I like it. I like it. So what did you learn about yourself during this internship?
What I learned about myself was I really enjoy working online, especially with other people, especially because during the school year, no one had their cameras on and no one wanted to participate. And now with this experience, I know, working online is pretty much just working in person, except in a much more comfortable space for me.
Interesting. Yeah, that I always worry that no one's actually going to talk. So this team, really, really high engagement. Loved it. Thank you for everybody, because you all participated like champions. So it was awesome. What do you learn about working that surprised you, though?
That there's a lot of deadlines. There's a lot of strict deadlines, because in school, a lot of times they're like, just turn it in next week. You'll get like 90%. It doesn't really matter, because for the most part, teachers don't really care. But here, you have to be quite on top of those deadlines.
Right, because we were basically working backwards on a very tight timeline to be able to do our portfolio prep, right? So I did a little bit of back of the envelope math to try to get us where we needed to be. Tried to give you guys a little bit of cushion, but there wasn't a lot of cushion. I know. So good work from the entire team on that, by the way. So what did you learn about investing or finance that surprised you?
That big companies some big companies are not good stock investments, although because they're hitting their peak right now. So all they're going to do is stagnate, which means they're going to make millions and billions of dollars. Doesn't mean that they're going to exceed. And I saw that with a few stocks I was researching.
Yeah, that's always a little bit disappointing when you're like, oh, I really, really like this brand. And then you look at it and you're like, oh, wait, they're probably not going to go anywhere. That's always frustrating. So you're like, well, I'll stick it on a watch list and maybe someday, maybe someday. Yeah, an unfortunate lesson, but we all gotta learn it, right? So thank you so much, Joseph. Much appreciated. I'm going to do a quick wrap up right now. We've gone through all of our presentations, but before I do our wrap up, I wanted to ask if there are any questions from our audience for our interns. And I think we have someone monitoring our YouTube channel. If there are any questions, go ahead and throw them in either to YouTube, or if you're online here, go ahead and jump into the audio.
I have a question for everyone. So you learned a lot during the finance and investing deep dive. I'm curious how that affects your future and how you look at finance and investing going forward.
How about you, Anthony? You look pensive.
And Kylo raised his hand too.
Oh, great. Either one of you.
Well, I was thinking of it more as in like what I learned at this internship was not just out of like maybe for a career in the future, but more for myself. I know someone said this earlier, but like more in like a personal sense, I find this to be very beneficial because you can't like save money because it depreciates over time. So I feel like this is like not as much as just like professional career, but just life advice, to help me financially in the future.
Kylo, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I agree with that. As like, not only do we learn about like investment, which is no doubt helpful to know for the future, but also other general advice that I'm certain, like such as budgeting and knowing how to pay back loans properly in the right order so that you don't end up in a ton of debt in the future, which in the future, if I ever do that, I'm pretty sure will be helpful to know what I learned during this internship.
Cool. Chloe, did you want to share?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think the most important thing that we learned that would be the most helpful in the future is we know what to look for when trying to make a smart investment, like its PE ratio, like how well the company is supposed to be doing in the future.
Cool. So let me share a question from Juan. And then this is for everybody. What's the one thing that you plan to implement in your own life from this internship? Nick, why don't you share? Then we'll go to Chloe.
The one thing that I would implement in my life is probably taking into consideration the interest that would build up from debt and kind of preparing a cushion for that in case I do end up going into debt, which I might. And just kind of making sure that I have a way of getting out of that situation instead of kind of trying to not, like, obviously I'm going to try not to get into that situation, but it's probably more than likely that I will get into the situation. So I was kind of thinking that, well, if I'm going to get in the situation anyway, I would want a way out that is both not necessarily easy, but just kind of making that fall a little bit softer.
I guess that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, making that fall a little bit softer. And definitely it's important to plan for it. Yeah. Chloe, what did you want to share?
I was just gonna restate what Anthony said about investing your money rather than saving it, since money depreciates in value over time. So personally, when I turn 18, I have money saved up and I'm going to look at companies I think would be smart to invest in and invest that money.
Cool. Anyone else want to share? Are there any other questions from the observers here today?
I have a question. This is Carmen. What will you tell future finance and investing interns? What do you tell them about this deep dive?
Give you a moment to think. What about you, Holt? What would you say?
Yeah, I think I'd say just pay attention. I think you get as much out of this internship as you put into it. So you could coast through and not do a lot, or you can really get into it, dig deep, go into the filings, look up research, be proud of what you do. and then you'll really get out of it and you'll be better off in the future.
What about you, Emma?
Yeah, I just want to second Holt because that is a really big thing. And then another thing that I would want to put out there is at the end of this internship, there will be recordings and different in the files. You can save the files and use them in the future for your benefit when you start to invest, and you can go back into the recordings and rewatch the recordings to make sure and learn more and rewatch and review what we have learned throughout the internship.
Yeah, one of the things I hate the most is that anytime I say any piece of information, unless I'm saying it 3 or 4 times to you, it's probably not going to stick necessarily. I think the things that stick the most are the things that you are actively working on when you're doing your projects, right?
Yeah,
So
that's why I like the recordings.
yeah, but then yeah, to go back over stuff and like really dig in and ask questions and find out more about those things where you're like, did you really say what I thought you said? It makes a big difference, right?
Yeah, and then also another thing is to ask questions and don't be afraid to reach out because people are willing to help you and it's not an inconvenience at all, and to not hesitate to reach out.
So Sarah, do you have any advice for future interns?
I'd say that this internship really gives out good life advice because in the adult world, finance will be a big part of your life. So getting exposed to financing and like investing is really beneficial in the long run.
Awesome. So shall we wrap up right now, or are there any further questions?
I have a question. Hi, everyone. I'm just curious what you thought when you saw the job posting that you could work from home and get paid, and what you thought it would be and what it turned out to be. If you have any reflections on that you'd like to share.
I just wanted to say, well, when I saw that it was originally from home, I was a bit concerned. Originally I was wishing that it would be in person because, personally, I find it to be more engaging in person. Obviously, plans changed. However, I also found that the shift was very seamless. It was very accessible and comfortable. I really love this internship because of how free I felt, especially working from home. I had a lot of freedom to research when I wanted, what I wanted, and it was really nice.
I think Emma also wanted to speak on this.
Yeah, so at first I was concerned, but I also I also felt that it would be a great opportunity because I'm able to not only focus on this deep dive, but if I have like an event to go to later that day, if I were to be in person, I would have to stay for the entire day. But online, I get to not only focus on the internship, but also go to the events that I needed to be at.
So let's jump over to Amelia.
I was gonna say when I first saw that it was remote, I really liked that because I've always thought that like working from home or even school from home is really convenient because you're saving time, like you don't have to commute and it's just easier to meet in your groups. And I also wanted to add, I think the first week I was a little overwhelmed just because like there were so many links, so many like tabs, but it was like pretty smooth and it was easy to adjust to.
I love my links and tabs and documents. Sorry. Also, I mean,
yeah,
it makes it possible for me to do this, right? Because just so you know, I live in San Diego, right? And you all are up in LA. So for me to physically be there would be extraordinarily challenging for me and pretty arduous, right? And it would make it difficult for me to do stuff like jump onto a call to help you do resumes or something like that, or to do AMAs, ask me anythings, where like I would probably end up having to do those things from the car, right, while I was driving to and from. So doing it this way makes it a lot more logistically possible for me to do a lot more for the team.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So I'm biased. I've been working from home for over 20 years. I actually can't imagine having to go to an office and to run a company. So when the pandemic happened, it wasn't a big shift for Bea Group. However, we understand that school on Zoom is different, and thank you for taking the leap, because we do know from feedback from the surveys that there was hesitancy with regard to another something that was remote. So those of you, thank you for sticking with it, and for our growing pains. Just so everybody knows, we transitioned to Microsoft Office 365 as a company. So all of you were part of that, and the email addresses that you have and the links and using Teams, and we hope that you will use those experiences and update your resumes, because in the hiring world, we have seen that understanding or knowledge of Microsoft 365 is something that's going to set you apart. So Harlan has been helping you with updating your resumes, so please do that. And then I just want to make a pitch that I hope we all stay in touch, because Harlan and I
please do.
very interested in staying in contact with you all. And so please stay in touch with us. We do invest. I mean, I don't know, Harlan, if you wanted to say more about what their portfolio, and that we are investing in their choices.
Oh yeah. So just to recap on that, we, at the end of the internship, the last step of it before we get to the showcase prep, where we're actually working on our portfolio selection. Once those stocks are selected for the portfolio, I actually go in and I buy dollar equivalent amounts of shares for each of the candidate stocks that we chose. And I'm actually going to list out some of those when I do our stock disclosure at the end, because basically now I own all of the things that we put into our portfolio. So you'll see what we selected.
Anyways,
we put $1,000 of real money into those stock selections, and that was added to the $1,000 of real money that we put into the 2021 selections as well, which we did in very much the same way. I wanted everyone to at least see one real stock buy when they were leaving the internship, to understand how that system works, because it can be a little bit daunting when you go in and do your first stock buy, and it doesn't need to be, it's just not well explained.
Anyway, so thanks everybody. Are there other questions from anybody?
If there aren't, I'll begin my wrap up. So everybody, when you're investing, please remember not to depend on a single source for information, not us, not your favorite analyst, nobody. Please do your own research, and we reserve the right to be wrong. So like these stocks that we're choosing, they may not all do well, and that's fine, but I do believe in them. I believe in the work that our internship teams have done. And let me do a little disclosure here. From our team, David Martinez owns the following stocks that were discussed or were part of our internship research program: Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Nike, Target, Tesla, and Walt Disney. And our family, the Bea family, owns the following: Amazon, Apple, Netflix, NVIDIA, Target, Tesla, Ulta Beauty, and Walt Disney. And that is all of the stocks that we bought at the end of this internship. So thank you to everyone who is watching. Very, very much appreciate you being here or watching this on YouTube. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe. And thank you especially to our co-designers who helped us out with all stages of this, and especially to Kim Olivares, who has helped us and was our team's co-designer. So thank you for being there. Thank you for handling the logistics and the planning and everything. I couldn't do this without folks to help support. It would be horrible. And yeah, 6 weeks of an internship. Thank you all for being here. And most especially, thanks to the interns. Y'all are awesome. You're all so awesome. Woo!
I'm going to stop the live stream. So I want to make a plug that we have another showcase. We have 2 more showcases today. So we have a podcast and audio storytelling at 2 p.m. Pacific, as well as music production at 4 p.m. So please come back to YouTube/Bea Group. And we also have showcases tomorrow and Thursday. Thanks for everyone for joining.